if people live in some area, then there is like much more species appearing, much more healthier ecosystem. But if there is no people somewhere, then species reducing themselves, and there's like very few species and very poor.
So what you're saying is Yitzhak here is developing the land.
Exactly.
And he's getting a blessing from God. Maybe that's part of the blessing or the command that God said to him, remember? Shechon ba'aretz, dwell. He's dwelling. He's sitting in the shade of Mr. Avimelech, the Melech Gerar. Economically, he's blessed. They are not blessed. What does that stir up? What can that cause? Jealousy. Let's see that. Again in verse 14 of chapter 26. Vayilo miknei tzonu miknei vagar. He has so much land development. And now he has what? A lot of cattle and sheep. A lot of fields. Avudah Rabbi, we said the name of the Rashbam. Vayikanu oto plishtim. Meaning, the plishtim people are just simply envious of him. Envious of what? Of his wealth, of his economic success.
Sounds like right now.
Very good. There is a sforno that explains the following, that in the plishtim fields, they sensed the opposite was happening. They planted, they sowed a lot, but with little what? Yield. What happens? Pasuk Tedva, verse 15. V'chola be'erot. Look, remember we're in the Negev. You need this before drip irrigation, pipes bringing water from Ashkelon or Ashdod, I don't know where. Where does he get water? It says, V'chola be'erot, all the wells. Asher chafru avdei aviv, that his father, the servants of his father, Bimei Avraham, that they dug. You know what the Plishtim have done? Sitmum Plishtim. Vayimalu mafar. When is this verse 15 occurring, gentlemen? When did this occur? When is this act of hatred of the Plishtim? When did it happen? Only when Yitzhak arrives, or could have happened clearly before Yitzhak arrived to Gerar?
Before, because there's also like an agreement between Abraham
Right.
and Avinu said, you have to promise that, you have to acknowledge that this well has been dug by my servant.
That's right. So even before Yitzchak's time, okay, before he arrives to Gerar, the jealousy of the Plishtim to who? Avraham Avinu, exactly. After his death, it was demonstrated by destroying his wells, maliciously filling up with dirt, okay? Instead of what? Using this for the public benefit of people, of others, travelers, commercial people traveling by, they destroyed those wells. Now, you see the galut beginning. The galut has begun now with Yitzhak. The prophecy of Kiger Yezaracha has begun to be fulfilled. He really feels like a stranger. He feels the enmity, the hatred of others. And now, something blatant. Pasuk Tet Zayin, verse 16. Vayomer Avimelech lech Yitzchak. Shall I say it in Arabic? Bara. Get out of here. Lech me'imanu. He's being driven out. Here, the feelings of jealousy of the success. Do you see this? The feelings of jealousy to the success of Yitzchak causes Avimelech to tell Yitzchak, get out of here. Lech me'imanu. Why? And this we have to understand and analyze the last four words of this pasuk. Number one, ki atzamta mimenu me'od. Atzamta from the word atzum. We know that you are what? You're terrific. You're great from the word atzum. Okay? And mi'od we know, which is very much. But what does the Torah mean, mimenu? Look, the word mimenu could be explained in two ways. Chazal called one mem the advantageous mem. You're more terrific than us. You're more economically successful than, more than. Mimenu. Ata chacham mimeni. I'm comparing, and what am I saying? That you're more wise. Mimeni. That is the letter mem, which explains a yitaron advantage. Do you follow? That's meaning number one. However, there's a second meaning of the letter mem, and it's called mem hamotzi. You know what? you became more terrific in economic wealth at our expense. Or because of us. What are they referring to? What are they referring to?
Themselves.
They're pointing a finger and saying, you took our water away. At our expense, at our loss. You dug up whatever wells, you took the water, you stole our water. That's what they're claiming. Okay? Did we see this throughout history? How much have the nations told the Jewish people in so many different places, because of their envy and jealousy, okay, of the well-to-do Jews in the Galut, and say to them, get out of our countries. You benefited only because of us. What are you doing here? We're not interested in you being here whatsoever. When you are jealous, you become emotional. And your emotions don't allow you to analytically, to intellectually really see and understand the situation. But, God often uses anti-Semitism and these sentiments to push the Jewish people out of there so they come back to Zion. The problem was over the centuries that we didn't come back to Zion. Okay? That's a very classic work of Machon Meir of Dvinsk, the great author of the Meshech Chochmah. He also wrote a great work on the Rambam called the Or Sameach. There's a yeshiva named after that work. God often uses nations to show their hatred to the Jewish people, to bring us a point that we shouldn't feel at home. And that instead we should strive to go back to Zion, to the land of Israel. So, if we wanted to be attracted to living here, God is sending now a message and saying to Yitzhak Avinu, you're not going to have a choice. You won't be able to live anymore here in Gerar. What does Yitzhak, by the way, can Yitzhak say, I don't want to do it? He's one person or family against who? A nation. Soldiers, police. Pasuk Yud Zayin, verse 17. Vayelach misham Yitzchak. He does leave. Where does he go to? Vayichan benachal Gerar. Vayeshev sham. Interesting. We understand that he departs from the city of Gerar. To where does he now camp? Vayichan. In Nachal Gerar. In the river, the area where water is being brought into Gerar from the east to the west. He's outside the city. Okay? So he left the city. He's not far. He's still in some sort of proximity. And it says Vayeshev Sham. He's there for a while. Remember Vayeshev? Try to see the text. What does Yitzchak do? He doesn't sit idle. As he's outside the city, what does he do? He looks for water. Vayashov Yitzchak. Again, what does he look for? Vayachpor et be'irot hamayim shechafu b'mei Avram Aviv. He has apparently blueprints or a map, stories about his Abba. His Abba was much more active than we thought. His Abba was digging up a lot of what? Wells of water. Why? Not just for laundry, and not just for a cup of coffee, but for irrigation. So he redigs up the Be'erot that what did the Plishtim do? Clog them up. Satmum Plishtim when? After the passing away of Avram. And Vayikra lahen Shemot. Kashemot HaShekar L'Maviv. Yitzchak re-gives them title. What title? Names that his Abba did. Now, I want you to understand, in the redigging of these wells, remember, what did Melech Gerar accuse Yitzhak Avinu of? Stealing his water. What did the king of Gerar do as a policy over the years, even before Yitzhak alive? To close up all the wells that this guy Avram did, even though they signed a pact, a treaty with us. Ken, let me ask you, wouldn't these wells be guarded maybe even by soldiers of the Plishtim area? But we can say that it's not in the city. It's outside the city, a place called Nachal Gerar. So now we find out there are additional wells dug by Avram Avinu while he used to live there. And thereafter, when Avram Avinu died, the Plishtim sealed them even before the arrival of Yitzhak Avinu. And now strife occurs. Who is the rightful owner? Who is the rightful owner? Okay? Let's keep on reading. Verse 19. By the way, what is the importance for us to know that Yitzhak recalls the names that his father has? Why does he recall it a name? Why does he go back and dig the same wells? What does that show? What does that illustrate? What in addition are you saying? No, what's your idea? Why is it? What's the importance of recalling the names of a well? What is it showing?
Acknowledging the fathers.
And if they belong to my father, you're right, so?
Just belong to him.
They belong to him. In other words, this maybe legally can be considered that it's my property. If they're my father's and they were not contested then they're rightfully mine. That's what the Nisid says. Gentlemen, verse 19. Now, notice what he finds upon digging. Pasuk Yutet, Vayachparu avdei Yitzchak banachal, Vayimtzu sham be'er mayim chayim. What is be'er mayim chayim? Huh? Mayim chayim, l'chayim. What is mayim chayim?
Living water.
What does living water mean?
Fit for living, for
What's that?
fit for living, like for everybody.
No, more than that.
From underground.
From under the ground. It's spring water. In other words, the waters here, let's remind ourselves, when we travel, God willing, it's still during the war, hopefully we can hike. And we might go to hike in the valley where there are riverbeds, where in these riverbeds, the waters are carried from one place to another. Could be rainwater. That's a nachal. Okay? But what is a be'er? Mayim chayim. Where I'm digging now, this is the source of the water. It's not from the nachal. It's independent of the riverbed. Here they find waters coming out of the ground, as the Ibn Ezra explains here. They're not from the nachal, but they're from a natural source. Yes, 1 second. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I see now. There is like, if you dig it well enough, then you just find, the point where it's like the water.
That's right.
And it just stays there.
And
but this lean water is like it's trying to get out of there. It's like moving.
Okay, in the nachal, the water streams because it's losing altitude, and it's rainwater collecting to there. So, and God forbid, if you're hiking, even in the Negev, you have to know and be careful of what's called flash floods. If it rains in the mountain area, and we're, let's say, east of the watershed, that means all the water coming down east of the watershed, right? The mountain area is this way. Whatever falls west goes down to the west. Whatever rain comes to the east goes down the watershed and fills up the Negev and all the valleys, the Dead Sea area. You can only travel when you know there's no forecast for rain. Otherwise, God forbid, something dangerous can happen. Flash floods, millions of cubes of water come and you can be washed away. What do the Plishtim, in result to Yitzchak finding Aleph, his father's wells that were sealed by the Plishtim, after he calls it names, and now he even finds Be'er Mayim Chayim. And now, gentlemen, tell me if you see the blatant hatred here. Pasuk verse 20, Vayarivu Ro'ei Grar Im Ro'ei Yitzchak Lemor Lanu Hamayim. Gentlemen, what's happening here? What are the Plishtim claiming?
Yes.
The water belongs to them. Why? Lanu Hamayim. What are they claiming? How are the waters theirs? Think. Yitzhak is claiming that he's dug, and he found the source of water. What are the Plishtim claiming?
The water.
It's not the source of water. You know where the waters come from? The Nachal. The Nachal penetrated the walls of whatever you dug, and the waters are from there. In other words, it's from the riverbed. It's not something independent that's yours or belonged to your father. And remember the word miriva, a quarrel. We see this word several times in the Torah. We already saw it regarding the Ro'ei Yitzchak and Ro'ei Lot. You recall the shepherds of Yitzchak and the shepherds of Lot, the shepherds of Lot and the shepherds of Avraham Avinu, they were quarreling. The word merivah. Usually the word merivah entails that there's not going to be a settlement. There's not going to be a compromise, not an agreement. Okay? That's the word vayarivu. And what do they call the name? Vayikra Shema Be'er Esek. Esek. Ki asku imo. Although today, you might say Esek is written with a samech. But here we're talking about a claim against Yitzhak. They're contesting his ownership. Okay? And therefore, maybe you dug the hole up, but the water is ours. Okay? So they're contesting his ownership, and therefore they give the name after this contesting. Would you please tell me the results of this quarrel? Can you tell me the answer in the next pasuk? What's happening between Yitzhak and the people in Gerar? Who wins the claim? Vayachparu be'er acheret. Whose people are going to dig another be'er? Who's going to dig? The Plishtim, you think? I don't think so. In pasuk 21, Vayachparu be'er acheret, they go ahead and dig another well. Who? Yitzchak's people. Why? Who won the contest? Who won the contest now? The people of the Plishtim. Otherwise, why is he going looking for different water? He gave in. He gave in. He doesn't have much choice, does he? It's not that he is looking for a better attorney. So here in pasuk 21, we see they go ahead and they dig another well, the people of Yitzchak. And what do the Plishtim do now? Vayarivu gam aleha. Wherever he goes, the Plishtim are contesting and saying, this is our waters. Now remember, this is not in the city. This is outside the city, in the area where the riverbed is bringing water into the city, Nachal Gerar. This time, Yitzchak calls the name of the Be'er, Vayikra Shema, Sitna. What an interesting name. Would you call Be'er hatred or obstruction? Sitna. What do we call the devil in Hebrew? Satan. Satan. In English or Latin, satanic forces, yes? Satan. So they call it Sitna. Why? In Yitzchak's eyes, his adversaries are satanic. They're devils to him. They're full of hatred to him. Okay? Remember, Yitzchak sees that the Plishtim saw his success, and they claim that Yitzhak is stealing their wells. It's a false claim. I don't know if you know. Last night, tremendous success by the IDF and our secret forces. We took charge over a hospital after evacuating the sick. And the chief spokesman for the IDF, who speaks English also for Western television and so forth, went down there and showed how below sub one level was a place they were keeping the hostages. They put a nice curtain there. They had a makeshift bathroom there. They showed dirty diapers on the floor of the infants that were taken into hostage there. They showed a lot of things for the Western world to see, that the terrorists use hospitals as major places for launching attacks against the Jewish people. So some of the terrorists got on the news, whatever, and said, no, this is just manipulation. It's not the hospital. We don't use hospital. Outwardly lying to the public. Israel's using fake news and this and that. So too here. History repeats itself, I think. Here comes the Plishtim, and they're saying, we're contending. Whatever you're claiming is yours, we're contending and contesting it. It doesn't belong to you. So here, they're saying Yitzhak is making a false claim. Gentlemen, they're trying their luck to continue to rob Yitzhak really without a claim. And they're standing up, like the Netziv says, as a satanic force. Why? Because they hate Yitzhak. They hate Yitzhak. Gentlemen, who wins this second bout? Round 2? Let's prove it. Pasuk Kafbet 22, shall we go on? Vaya'atek misham By the way, do you remember the word vayatek early in Breshit? Regarding Avram Avinu, the same verb was used. When Avram Avinu lands in place number 1 in Shechem and calls the Mizbeach in Elon Moreh, he doesn't sit idle there. The Torah says, quote, vayatek misham hahara. He uprooted himself. He took himself, went out, he went on the mountain ridge, and then he goes to the area next to Beit El. So to the same verb here. He goes far away. Vayatek misham. He doesn't rely on staying, not only not in the city of Gerar, not only outside in the outskirts called Nachal Gerar. Vayatek misham. He goes further away. And where does he go? Vayachpor beracheret. He starts doing agriculture. He needs water for a cup of coffee, cup of tea you like. Fine, follow the reading of the text in Pasuk 22. Vayachpor beracheret. And what happens this time? Velo ravu aleha. No quarreling. What's the matter? The Plishtim love Yitzhak? Huh? Why is there no quarreling here? Huh?
Maybe they cannot keep up.
You can't keep up with him. I don't know if it's good because he went far, far away, or this is God's supervision. God's supervision over that eventually, the further we go away from these Gentile people, we will find some peace, some tranquility. Notice here that in the previous Chafirot diggings, the Torah stated Vayach Peru in the plural. Here it states what? Vayach. Huh? Vayach. No, what does the Torah state? Find it, the verb? Vayach por. Singular or plural? Singular. What? Are you? Is the Torah alluding to the fact that Yitzhak himself is doing it? Isn't Yitzhak a wealthy man? Doesn't he have what? Servants. Hey, Yossi, come here. Yeah, bring the what is it called? The shovel. What's the matter? So several answers to this question that we can ask. It could be that others are digging, but they're digging as shlichim, messengers, in the name of Yitzhak Avinu. Therefore, it says in the singular as if Yitzhak is doing it. Or, you know what? Yitzhak himself started the digging, like any major project. Sometimes when you do a new building project, who do you call? You call the Minister of Housing, and he does the digging, or he pours the cement. Have you ever seen ceremonies of cutting stone, hitting stone for the first time? They often call VIPs to come. So Yitzhak, he's doing the first digging. Why? It's to like you said, Yaakov, to develop the land of Israel. Major project. So the great people place their hands on the cornerstones, the red ribbons, and Yitzhak too is doing it. And here we have the hashgacha of Hashem, that divine supervision. And what does he call the name of this bear, gentlemen? Vayikra Shema Rechovot. Rechovot. Do we know where on the map is Rechovot? It's like the beginning of southern Israel. Okay? From Rechovot, we go to Ashdod, Ashkelon, and we go further south. Rechovot. When you go in, there's a major commercial area called the Bilo Shopping Center. When you go into Rechovot, going from east to west, at this major intersection of the entrance of Rechovot, you have this gigantic lawn or greenery, and you have the following words embedded on this little hill. Rechovot comes from the name Vayomer Ki Ata now Hirchiv Adonai Lanu Ufarinu Ba'aretz. God gave us this wide room to settle. Okay? I have more place, large settlement. I have a higher level of reproduction. Hirchiv, from the word rachav. How do you say the word street? Rechov, a place, a wide area. With your permission, I would like to end today's shiur with sharing with you a wonderful Ramban. What do we have to know these stories for? How are they important for us, for the future generations? Remember, everything written in the Torah has an implication for all generations. So you would think these stories of Yitzhak, it's not really to the honor of Yitzhak or the dignity of he and his father's honor, Why? You watch the tennis matches, right? Out of the 3 sets here, we lost 2 out of 3. We lost. We won 1, but we lost 2 sets out of 3. Why have to write this in the Torah? Why mention it? Ken, what was the score? 5-7, 5-7, and 6-0. The last one we won 6-0. Right? You play tennis? You play tennis? Tough. I'll have to find some. We'll talk about that right after sure. Okay. Gentlemen, there's a lot of symbolic meaning to the 3 confrontations here because they're symbolic of Mayim Chayim. Water hints to the house of God, Beit HaMikdash, that the children of Yitzhak will be building. And therefore we see the words Be'er Machim. The first battle, confrontation, the first name of the bear, do you remember what was it called? With the letter Ayin, Esek. Esek. What hidden idea is the first Beit HaMikdash called Esek? Ramban Nachmanides explains, since the first Beit HaMikdash, this represents the first holy temple that the Jewish people built. But since we were later challenged and ruled over by others, all the arguments and the confrontations that happened until the first Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. Okay? So in spite of the fact that we hit water, Be'er Mayim Chayim, that was the Beit HaMikdash, the Gentiles did not let us contain it. The second name, what do you remember was it called, the second Be'er that Yitzhak dug? Sitna. That's a harder name than the first name. Sitna is hatred, isn't it? Okay? That represents the second Beit HaMikdash. Why? Do you remember, right as we were building the second Beit HaMikdash and we're under Persian rule, what was the name of that Persian king that appears in the Megillah? Achashverosh. Do you know that he allowed words of sitna? That's what appears in the book of Ezra. Words of hatred about the settlers of Judea and Yerushalayim. And because of this decree of sitna, do you know what was stopped? The Beit HaMikdash building was stopped. So during the period of building the second Beit HaMikdash, there too was a lot of hatred to the Jewish people and Yerushalayim. Eventually, even though it was built, it wasn't the same like the first temple. And the evil Galut set in, and eventually the Roman Empire destroyed the second Beit HaMikdash. What is the third name of the well of water of Yitzhak? What is it called, gentlemen? Rechovot. What will that represent and be symbolic of? The third temple. Beautiful. She may be built speedily in our days. Amen. Okay? That will be built without quarrel, without arguments, without hatred. God will widen. Hirchiv lanu. He will widen our borders. You're going to see. And therefore, these arguments and these events that are happening here is hinting to what will happen first, second, and third temples. B'ezrat Hashem. It seems that the Jewish people in the last few days are getting the message out to the world, a world that cares for values. And they're understanding that the war that we're fighting and the people that we're killing is a justified war. And we're doing it not only for ourselves, but also for the world. And therefore, people all over the world, Gentiles all over the world. I heard the Japanese even singing, which song were they singing on with Israeli flags? David Melech Yisrael or something like that in different countries. Would you imagine? In different countries all over the world, people are showing unification with the Jewish people, with the state of Israel. And we're happy it's happening. We don't need it, but it's for the betterment of the world, B'ezrat Hashem. May Hashem watch over all our soldiers and all security people, and may be able to destroy this enemy above and under the ground, and see better days of now that there are tens of thousands of our brothers and sisters living outside their homes, not inside their homes, such a difficult situation. May they be able to return and rebuild their communities. B'mheira v'yameinu, amen.